under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, first order is minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Russ. Discussion?
Call for the questions.
The question has been called for to approve the July 21st, 2021 regular minutes of the city council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous. Okay, next item is the Pioneer Federal, the community foundation gave a donation to the tree board. I think it was 5,000, yes. That's, I think, going to help do Swenson Way, so correct?
Pardon?
The Pioneer Federal donations are going to help do Swenson Way.
Yes, it's the second half of the $10,000 pledge they gave us last year.
They will write a little thank you for the donation.
Which report has that covered?
Okay. Okay, next item, mayor's report. I put this here, the resolution, we can put it under finance if you want, either one doesn't matter. Run the,
Second.
Bill moved, but who's second? Russ. I'm having a hard time on this side.
Yeah, too many cookies.
And I just
Got one of the peanuts stuck in it.
discussion, sorry. I'm not sorry for the discussion. But pretty much what this is like I've told before, and probably the finance committee is really sick of hearing it. But before, it was the mayor's budget, as they were putting it together with the department heads and all of that. Then I would present it to the finance committee, which I've done. Now the council has to accept that budget, take it, and make it their budget. And that's what this pretty much is doing in fancy words.
Move to approve, or call for the question, pardon.
Question has been called for to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon adopting the preliminary city budget for the fiscal year 2021-2022, including budgets for the lighting, street maintenance, and street district, and for SID 34, 35, 36, 37, police levy, retirement levy, and police levy, setting hearing thereon, and directing publication of the notice of the hearing. All those in favor say aye. All those against say nay. I take that as unanimous. That'll be my next show once I retire from here. Okay, next item is, like I've said on this, first off, the sheets that I handed out, why we handed out some new stuff on the budget was I got the sheets from the state, what the mill levy is, how much the taxable property valuation of the city, which then tells you what the mill is for the city. It went up about $600-700. So it was about 55 last year, now it's 61. If you look under page, well, if you look at the last page in the document, it would be more if I'm getting here. This is the sheet that you got to fill out when you do your mill levy. This is I-105 kind of thing. First sheet, for the first line on there, that's $623,824 is what we taxed last year. So by I-105, we get to increase this 1.93%, which turns out to be $5,802. You just got to fill this spreadsheet in, what you got to do. Then down a little lower, it says entering taxable values. I entered what the state said valuation, taxable valuation of the city is, which is $6,128,213. That then, you just divide that by 1,000, that means the mill is $6,128.21. Now, we also, from that, we have new taxable property. We have $231,889 of new taxable property. So, at the end of the whole thing, we get to tax the people, and that's right near the bottom. If you look under the current year authorized levy assessment, if you look there, our mills, the general tax, that's what we're doing here, is the general tax. And the general tax has the general fund in it. It has comp liability, PERS, health insurance, and library, okay? Of that, we get to, that adds up to, how many numbers? 43 for comp liability, about 118 for PERS, and 87 for health insurance. Now, also, the total health insurance, that's just the part that was before. We also, for health insurance, get to use permissive medical, and that's 205,000. So you can see just our medical benefits that were given the city staff adds up about 290,000, 300,000. Just the health. And it's actually higher than that because these do not count the enterprise funds, water, sewer, and I call it bus just because that's the contracts we sign that we have to take it from theirs. And police levy. Police levy I have to treat because those are taken out a different way. That's the bottom, that's the voted mills. And so you can see the number of mills, they add up to 10678. That's what we got to give the county. But we also give the county the other numbers, permissive medical, police levy. If you look through, you'll see that we get to cut. Last year, we took about 232. The year before, we took 248 about. This year, I'm recommending to only take 126, so it's about half. Because I'm trying to refresh people's memory. You know.
Are you reading the line down or not reading the line down?
Police levy is down like 3 from the bottom on page 4.
Number 2,000. Okay.
Okay. All tax, and what these funds are tax funds, of course, because they're on the tax sheet. You got at least, you're supposed to keep at least 25% of your cash reserve, the ending cash reserve divided by your expenditures. That can't be under 25. And by law, it can't be over 50%. And that's why I had to cut this for the police levy. Because right now, if you look under the balance sheet, which is the page before, page 2, the second roll down, or the second row down the numbers, you'll see the police levy, the ratio, that's what I'm talking about, is the cash remaining divided by the proposed expenditures. 10 times 100 to get percentage. You'll see police levy sitting at 49%. We could have to go over 50 by law because of tax. That's what the law is set up to try to make sure you just don't start taxing the people and holding a big nest egg when they really don't want you to do that. That's really what the law, in my words. Now, ones that are not driven by tax, you have no limit. You can, like the water and sewer accounts, they want you to go high. And if you look under there on one of them, under the sewer, which is page 3 on your balance sheet, 5345. You can see the one above that sewer R&D is at 305,000 or 305%, and the debt service is at 209%. Our our ending cash remaining on there, we're gonna have, the debt service will have 1.25 million sitting in there in cash. And the sewer R&D has 735,000. The water R&D will have this is after all the spending that I put in there, you'll have 644,000, 645,000. Water O&M has 573,000. Sewer O&M is 333,000. So if some lines break or things that we need to do, we have money, so don't, let it get out. We have money to operate our utilities, so no problem. The other thing, if you look, or I won't say, I'll just tell you, on page 4 again, we got voted debt levy for the police retirement. We're taking 150,000 again, or 151,000 out. The kicker here is the amount of principal is really going down. And so our payments, they calculate it every year, they adjust it every year. But how they adjust it is that it takes and looks at what principal you have, but they still keep it out to the number of years. 12, I think there's that, or something like that. 9, 10, 12, somewhere in there. And so our payment this year is around 40, wasn't it? So out of the 150, we pay 40 goes into that. So you can see we're going to spend about 100,000 in principal. Won't take long before it's gone, the way we're doing this. The other reason it benefited us was through COVID, the interest rate really dropped. It was starting to go up and then it dropped now. So I would recommend keep doing what we're doing on this principle, or on this, and that one will go away. A lot of the SIDs are getting ready to go away, not this year, but next year they'll be going away. 35, 36 going away, or 34, 35, 34, 35 is going away, not this year, but next year. 36 the year after. Street maintenance one is going away next year. Quite a few of them are going away. So, any other questions on the budget or any?
Mr. Mayor, on the police retirement,
Could you, so we can get you recorded properly, please.
is this one live?
Yeah.
Okay, on the police retirement, can you make prepayments on that?
Yeah.
So you can pay it all off if you had some readily available cash on that one?
Yes.
Okay, and I know you know this, but on the utility, certainly you need to have enough in there for operating and problems. But on the other hand, the statute deems that you run it in an economical manner because it's presumed that the city can run it more efficiently than a private entity. That's the only caveat I have there.
But what their definition of equitable or economical is, they really want you to build up a big reserve in case, well, it's like this one, if we had a $3 million reserve or $4 million, we wouldn't have had to bond out. That's what they're looking at, is trying to get reserves.
Replacement.
Yeah. I seriously doubt you're gonna see a $4 million reserve. And the only reason that sewer one, that 2015 refunding one sewer for the project of the wastewater treatment plant, the only reason there's a 1.25 million in there is you can't take and spend any free, you can't put a prepayment in for 10 years. And so there's still probably another 4 or 5 years on that. And by the rules on those utility ones, you have to assess, or not really assess, but we collect.
Collect?
Yeah, collect. 125 at least, and I have it set to be about 127% of the payment. So every year you're putting 25% more in that fund, and you can't use it for anything besides bond payment. That's why it keeps building. But I recommend once it hits 10 years, and that'll be another 4 years, I think, I would then take all that money, or most of it, and do a prepayment on it, buy a bunch of the bonds back.
Sorry.
I'm done talking. I'm trying to impart as much of the knowledge I have to everybody. Anybody have any questions? Okay, how's it gonna run is, you just voted on the resolution. We will notice it in the paper. Next meeting, we'll have a public hearing. At that time, during the meeting, I will set the same line item, asking for any more discussions. Maybe you might want discussions then after you hear the public talk. Maybe not, don't know. And then, after that meeting, the first meeting of September, which will be September 1st, that's when we have to pass the final budget and also pass all the resolutions to assess all the districts, all the SIDs, the levies. We have to do all of them. Okay, at that time, right before we vote, we can still change it, so I'll have that same line item. So you guys can get together, discuss, change to whatever level you want. Or not change at all, just keep going. It's at this time, it's your guys' budget. You can fix it up as you want. Okay? We'll move on if nobody else has any. Okay?
I've got one question, comment. I guess this is mainly for the chief. I guess with my understanding here a couple weeks ago, you said you were going to try to discuss, cut $30,000 out of your budget.
Where are you?
I'm on the police budget, page 35, and I see you did not only not cut 35,000, but you actually raised it to about 70,000 from what it was last year. That's I'm reading this. Last year I had it down at 581, and this year it's 635. I could be reading this wrong.
Well, last year it was 639 for the police department. And this year it's 705.
So I'm on the wrong,
But that is still,
but it's still
65,000.
Right.
I remember, you remember we increased salaries, that was like
Right.
35, somewhere in there, plus the chief of police and assistant chief got a pay raise.
I distinctly remember somebody, I don't know if it was you or the chief, said they were going to try to cut $30,000 out of the
Some of the reason it went up too, if you look under that line on page 34, 312, you see 20,000 there for bulk storage. That was money I wanted to spend last year and never got around to being spent. So it's back in there again. So that's why it's 20. But you looked on the sheets, when you look at the bottom, on those last 4 fiscal years, that's what actually was spent, not what we budgeted. And just because we budgeted 704, doesn't mean we're going to spend 704. I've been training the chief of police for years on that.
I didn't.
Okay, well, I guess
So I'm always stressed out about it. But yeah, no, that $20,000 that was supposed to be spent last fiscal year, and it wasn't because I wouldn't sign a contract with those IT tools. So that was just moved back into this year's budget. So it's not an addition, it's just rolling over from last year. But my budget came under, it's come under, comes under all the time. And I would not have said I'm cutting $30,000. That had to be somebody else.
He also has short memory too.
Well, I just see, when I see this stuff, and I realize we have all this COVID money we're going to spend, COVID money's going away pretty soon, and I don't think the government's going to start printing more money to bail us out.
I understand.
Next year when we don't have the money. So I just hate to see people get comfortable spending this money when we know it's not replaceable money. It's a one-time grant.
I think if you look at that.
And I'm just as guilty. I
Yeah.
mean, believe me, when we come to spending our elevator money, I'll be
Yeah.
just as bad, but
Oh, no, you'll be worse, because if you look at my budget down the line, it's like where it says office supplies and materials, when it says 5,400, that's what I spent. But I was budgeted more than that. So I was budgeted probably what the proposed budget is from last year, but I only spent that much. So I'm coming under budget, or we're coming under budget, I shouldn't say that I am. But we're coming under budget. So what you're looking at is what was spent compared to what's budgeted, not what's gonna be spent this year. If that makes, I mean, that's what it is, but I can see when you look at it, why that would trip that way.
just a comment.
I'm pretty frugal. Yeah, I'm pretty frugal.
But you can see, if you look at page 4 or 34, line item 110. Garage code 110. Odd number. Last year, we paid for salaries and wages, $359,000. This year, we're projecting 405 or 406. So that went up 40-some thousand. And that's the officers that I was telling you last time, for 30. And the chief of police and the assistant chief of police. That's why it's sitting around 40 on salaries. So not all the increase went into salaries. Some of it was the dispatcher stuff. That's going to probably go up. I just know that one too. The computers, to make it so efficient in that's going up. Don't need to talk anymore, so did we answer your question? Maybe not necessarily to your satisfaction.
I'm looking into the future when all this COVID money's gone and we're back down to spending this will be having tax money.
And this COVID stuff, last year we spent that chunk, and that came from the CARES Act, that one. And that was the one I really didn't want to have going over to this year, because then that plays around with that 25 to 50% thing, you know. And we got most of the spent. Remember, we fixed up 2 streets with that, or we're getting ready to do. We put some money in to fix Idaho Street. We put money in to fix Sky High, for that half of Sky High. There's some police money. This year, we're also using what didn't get used to do parks. We're doing 2 parks. Well, that's the plan that's in my budget to do. The sprinkler systems in the parks. We should finish that way. But I agree. Most of this budget right here, aside from what we pulled out, which is under the section called ARPA, besides that, that's the one that we have the $1,090,000 in it. But we still got to come up with how are we going to spend it. You have to tie it directly to COVID. Okay, so you don't do that at any time, and you sit there and you put in, and once a year, and I will do that in October. You got to do it. It starts, your data starts by the end of September. So sometime in October, I got to write what we did with the money, or what we plan on doing with that money. So, and you got to do that every year. And you have to be able 2024 to spend it. Any money not spent or not earmarked, i.e. earmarked is like you have to have a contract and they're getting ready to start on that. Then you give that money back that you have, it goes back. Also, if you spend it, and and you send it in that report, this is where we spent the money, they can come back saying, yeah, we don't believe that had to do with COVID, so give us the money back. So you might have spent 400,000 that you don't have, but you do have, it's in the ARPA account. But they can ask for it back. And then the general fund is really burdened at that point. So,
Go into explaining how you would pay it back if they wanted it back.
I really don't know. We could handle a 300 or 400, because if you look at the balance, the ending balance is going to be 535,000 in general fund. But you gotta remember, that's the ending. We still gotta operate a bunch of stuff. So the solutions, the options, if you had to pay it back, is either you start firing people or rip them, or you go out and ask the judge that we can't pay it, will you please allow us to tax the people? I don't know any other way, or go to the people and ask them to vote the increase in. None of those I'm wanting to do, so I'm trying to tell you, I don't want any of those things to happen.
With
That's why-
I-105, can you print warrants on those or not?
I do not know.
We're going back a long ways.
They used to allow it, but then I'm not sure. That's a legal question. I can't answer that. I don't know.
I can't.
Because otherwise you can just start issuing a bunch of warrants, which is like you take loans, you're loaning the money, or you're asking people to give you money at a certain interest rate, you'll pay it back in a certain time. Which is not a good thing to do either. Everybody ready to move on? We'll probably spend more time on it here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
is it possible to, with the indulgence of my colleagues, to move up the Parks Committee report? We have someone here who would like to speak at this portion, and she has 4 small children waiting at home.
Okay. If there is no objection. Okay. Parks Committee, item 600E is on.
In the packet is the minutes from the meeting of July 28th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Russ, seconded by Diana. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the July 28, 2021 meeting minutes of the Parks and Playground Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
And then as part of our committee report, we have 2 action items. The first is to approve the money in the preliminary budget to revamp the irrigation systems at Westside Park and at Ray Lynch Park. And we thought possibly you might want to know, have an update on Ray Lynch Park before voting on this.
I'm Alyssa Creighton with Beaverhead Little League. Thanks for having me here tonight. I just wanted to give you guys an update on Ray Lynch Park and where we're at with that, and answer any questions that you might have about the park and what we've done so far since the lease got approved. We've been working pretty hard on the design of the park. There was actually an article in the newspaper that lined it out pretty well today on everything that's happened. If you've driven by or gone over there and taken a look at it, it's pretty remarkable, the progress that's been made so far. Huge part thanks to Deer Creek Excavation, because they've donated all of the work to excavate that entire park. We were trying to keep everything the same and minimize the work that had to be done and the money that was spent over there, but when we started working on it, to their recommendation, Deer Creek's recommendation was to completely regrade those fields, which at the end of the day, because of their donation, ended up being the best scenario because we've now been able to reposition those fields, which is more ideal for sunlight, for playing time, and we're also going to be able to fit a t-ball field out in between those fields. So fencing is all put in by Tim Anderson. It looks amazing. Still more work to do on that. And now we are looking at the irrigation system. And so that's kind of where this all comes into play. We're hoping to have the field completely playable by the spring of 2022, which is coming very quickly. But that's kind of the hope out there. We will eventually have a concession stand building out there with public restrooms, a playground and all that, but we are not going to start that concession stand building right now because I don't think that's very feasible or smart on our behalf because we have other things that we can do to play baseball without a building. So that's kind of where we're at. We've spent a lot of hours out at Ray Lynch measuring, diagramming, field layouts and all that. Didn't think I'd need geometry so much in my life, but spent a lot of hours out there trying to make that, get the diagrams to the contractors to do the fencing, to do the digging, where the infield dirt goes, all of that. And so it's been a lot of hours out there and very proud of it as a board, not just me, but as a Little League board. We have a great crew and we just appreciate everything the city has done so far to allow us to work on this project because it is very exciting for all of our kids. So any questions on what's going on out there or where it's going?
How are you gonna grass the fields?
Our hope is to hydro seed. We have a couple of contracts. We don't have any exact bids yet. I just got them the actual drawings and measurements of where we're going to be hydro seeding about 3 weeks ago, so still waiting on bids from that. We of course have to have the irrigation system in first, and so it's kind of one step at a time. So our hope is it's about 5 weeks is what we're told. I'm not an expert, but what we're told is if you can hydro seed it when the weather's still warm and get it in with enough time to let it grow before winter hits, it will be playable by next year, as opposed to planting seed or doing sod, which would be, sod would be way too cost prohibitive at this point.
Thank you, Alyssa. And I concur, the article in the paper in the Dillon Tribune today is a great article, and really, there's great pictures and explains a lot. And then when you drive out there, it makes more sense. The mayor was going to have to put in the budget for next year. I'm trying to get to it. Is it, if my memory says it, 6650? 6650.
Oh, how much?
West
side is 15,000, Ray Lynch 65,000.
65,000.
That's what's in the budget now. And I think she's asking, Mary Jo, to approve it now, to sort of lock it in so that we can sign a contract or something, get them started on the sprinkler system. So that's what this is about.
Did you get a current feel for what the sprinkler system's gonna set you back?
Yes, we, the most recent bid that we had from Allen Landscaping was from last April, I believe, and it was right at around 70,000. And that was pretty outdated given the cost of materials. And so we did get a bid from Exterior Design, which is a new company here in Dillon, a young family that just moved here from Butte, actually. He has commercial experience from a job he had done in Bozeman for, I believe, 10 plus years. And so he did bid that job, and it came in at just over 100,000. The same hours, same materials, and it was all just increase in cost of materials. And so that's where it's at, is about 100,000 at this point for the same job.
I knew there was quite a problem there first getting the parts. To do it right is one thing, that to cobble it together is something different. And cobbled together is available for parts, I understand, but the doing it right parts aren't available. Is that correct or incorrect?
So in visiting with the contractor that we're working with on the sprinkler system, there was a way that we could possibly get other materials instead of the PVC, because the PVC pipe, not an expert, so don't necessarily hold me to the fire on this one, but the PVC pipe is preferred, but that's what's hard to get right now. So there was a suggestion, or a potential suggestion, if we had to have it done, to go to poly, I believe, which is not ideal for a commercial system because of just the way that it needs to handle the water pressure and everything. The contractor that we're working with, that $100,000 bid, is all PVC. It's no poly. It's commercial grade system that will last. It's the highest grade that we could possibly get. And the parts are actually on a truck on its way here now. He was able to get all the parts.
Excellent.
And he's slated to start August 16th, just kind of depending on where everything
So, Mrs.
starts.
Creighton, where does the other $40,000 come from?
We actually had a board member just on Monday that he's been very instrumental in visiting with potential donors. And we told him about the increase in the cost of the irrigation system, and anticipating that the $65,000 was a potential coming from the city, he gave us a check for $35,000 on Monday.
So if we can approve this evening, you can go ahead and go with the bid that you have right now for $100,000 and get this put in this year, and with the possibility of hydroseeding this year also.
Yes, if the $65,000 goes through, that we're pretty much, given work time, I think that we are pretty much guaranteed that the job will start on the 16th, and I would say probably will take 2 to 4 weeks. I'm not exactly sure on his time frame to get that finished, which gives us plenty of time to get the hydroseeding done for next spring.
The other thing that I think that really impressed me was what it will do for our community on the north entrance to town. You come in and you come around that corner, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful center and entrance way to Dillon.
It's, I think about the potential out there, and of course having 4 kids at home, and our board of course is made up of parents too. You think about the potential out there. This year was a real struggle for our season in a good way. 2 years ago we had 240 kids in our league. Last year, 2020, even with COVID, I think we had 275 to 280 kids in our league, and this year we have 350. So our league is growing tremendously. If anything, COVID maybe even helped youth recreation and the importance of having kids outside, not for learning how to play baseball and softball, but for interacting with their peers and just keeping them physically active and keeping their mental health, keeping them healthy, wholly healthy. And so that is really helping our league. We did not have any available practice fields once games started this year for any of our teams. So we had kids, some of them were out at Chris Craft Park. We had kids on the old Cubs field because we had to have available slots so people could reserve times. I mean, there'd be 2 games going on, a game over at the middle school softball field, and 2 teams practicing over there and 3 practicing over on the old Cubs field every night of the week. And so practice availability was very tough. So having Ray Lynch and being able to fit a T-ball field in there, because we have 8 T-ball teams last year, or this current year that just ended, having that availability is going to be a complete game changer for our league. A complete game changer for the availability and those kids getting on the field. Throwing the ball around is great, but if you can't get on the diamond to really practice the game, you're missing a lot of opportunity there to really learn, game situations. And so it's a pretty big deal. And as we continue to grow, I think we had kids from Wise River this year. We had kids from Wisdom. Twin Bridges is back in our league, so they come over here for games. We hope to get Sheridan back in our league. They're all a part of our boundaries, and so everything kind of just comes back to Dillon. And we hosted the 9 to 11-year-old state baseball tournament 2 weekends ago, and we had 3 teams come to Dillon, 2 from Missoula and 1 from Billings. and then the Dillon team. And just kind of estimating what it costs for lodging and food for that entire weekend, because we know what it costs. We are spending that money in other places when we go to Frenchtown and Missoula and wherever. We estimated just about $6,000 a team coming into the community, and that just is essentials. That's lodging and food. That's not retail. That's not recreation, anything included in that. So next year we are supposed to be hosting pool play for District 2, which is the western side of Montana. And we are assuming we're going to have 15 to 18 teams coming to Dillon in 2022 for that. And if you think 6,000 to 10,000 per team, it's a big impact. We don't get that money as an organization. There's no fees to come and play for Little League. We're completely volunteer run. And so that's to be able to give back to Dillon, because obviously that you guys have all, the city has and donors have supported our league in a huge way. So having the ability to host a tournament like that and more tournaments it's huge. It brings in a lot of money to our community and to our local businesses.
And all that money goes to area hotels, motels, restaurants, and retail
Yep.
establishments.
The Sundancer stepped up for us big time, because it was History Days and then the senior rodeo, and I was on the phone for I don't even know how many hours to try and get rooms, and I was able to get a block there, and they were full in 3 hours. And then High Country Lodge was the next place. I was trying to get those teams, because a lot of them were saying, well, we'll just drive to Butte. I'm like, hold on, let me see what I can do, let me make some calls. So I know a lot went to High Country Lodge to at least keep it in Beaverhead County.
Thank you, we appreciate that extra, and just keeping those dollars here.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Dan. Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the items on the preliminary budget for the west side and the Range Park for the irrigation systems. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, that's unanimous. They have them.
I appreciate you
Or
guys.
you only care about Ray Lynch, but.
I care about everything else.
Well, and members of the city council, we have one other action item, and it is to waive the 21-22 park usage and water costs for Little League at Ray Lynch Park.
And what that is, the reason they're asking for that is there was no water used out there. It's all
It was
just
just-
part of that. Plus the park was like $50, $60, isn't it? So like that. The big cost was water, and they didn't use any water out there. That was the $500-600 a year, I think.
It was just a field.
And
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Bill. Discussion.
Okay, I guess I'm the rainy day here. Number one, where you want to take the money from comes out of water and sewer. That's an enterprise fund. This body does not have authority to take money out of an enterprise fund for non-enterprise use. This is a non-enterprise use. If you're going to repair a water line, we can take the water money out. If you're going to donate the money to somebody else, you got to take it out of your own budget, not the water and sewer budget. That's one of the cravats on this. It's kind of like a trust fund. There's only certain things you can take money out of it for. This, unfortunately, doesn't fit in those guidelines.
Now, this is just for this year, and they
It
haven't
doesn't
used
matter.
any water.
Well, okay, then it's a non-issue, but for next year, when they do the hybrid seeding, it's going to take a big bunch of water out
And
there.
that, they're gonna be paying for it. This just waives this year, this year is already pretty much over for the Little League. It just waives that one. It's not for the next one,
I don't understand that. If they didn't use no water, why is there a bill?
because we have a contract with them. And that's all we're doing is waiving the charge on that contract. But the contract doesn't go away, it just waives it for this year that's finishing.
And I understand, Mr. Hand, where you're getting mixed up. We probably have it incorrectly marked in here. It should say for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Could be.
Okay.
And that'll make more sense to you. Because it was just a great big field and no water was used.
Okay, so why are we rebating water fees for no water being used? I think that's
We're
my
waiting,
question.
we're
Well, we're not
waiting.
rebating, they've held back on paying it, and then we got to.
But there hasn't been any usage, so there hasn't been any fee for water.
No, the fee is built into the contract. If they don't use any water, they still got to pay the $500-600 for water and the $50 for the park fee.
Okay, so, to make sure I understand this right, we didn't charge them for water, but they're being charged for water under their contract, so we're gonna waive that part of the contract.
For just this year,
Just
not
this
coming up, not the part coming up, no. So I might have worded it wrong, but the number might be 20 to 21,
20 to 21, and that makes more sense.
but not for next year. They're in their plan and it's all been fixed up. Then they're gonna be charged the water fee and the park usage fee.
Okay, so what's gonna finish out this year then with the, after the hydro seed? Will that be in next year's, or will it be in this year's?
I'd actually be surprised if you hydro seeded myself this year, just because we're already in August, September, and get a little nervous in November, you're gonna freeze. So I mean, you might get another, you might be able to make it, but there's a lot of assumptions on when the whole thing is gonna be in and working.
So is their contract January to January?
I can't remember now.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
The big definition with Rich on this one.
Does Todd remember?
I don't.
It might be January to January, but I'm not gonna say anymore, but
Maybe we should move the table until we find out.
I think that'd be best. Maybe,
so that was a motion to table until next meeting when we should have the contract and tell you when.
Right.
We're-
It's April 1st through August 31st. Is the way I'm reading it.
I think that's
I
right.
think that's right, yeah.
So it's already pretty much almost over.
Yeah. And if they're
And
not.
that's the one we're asking to waive.
So that will be into next year, Mr. Hand, because if they are able to hydro seed this year, it will be after August 31st. It will be into next year. And it'll be part of that, the money they pay for next year.
okay, and that field's on meter, correct?
Yes, it's on me.
All right, I'm fine with that.
Okay, then I'll withdraw the table.
Was it you that second, okay.
Then I'll call for the question.
Question's been called for to waive, not what you guys want to use, just April to August
21.
Yeah.
21, just get rid of the 22 section
Yes.
of that. Park usage and water costs for the Little League at Ray Lynch Park. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay. Passes unanimous, I take it.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we'll go back. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Report of officers and board of the city, library board, Mr. McGinley.
I ask you to approve the minutes of the June 29th meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Bill, discussion.
Question.
Questions been called for to accept the June 29th, 2021 meeting minutes of the library board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous. Anything you want to talk about on it, or just the minutes speak for themselves?
Minutes speak for themselves. Last we had one in June, end of July, that just more or less went over their budget. and they're looking for the $30,000 CD still. The Great Goose Chase.
Yeah, I'll help you guys on that too. Okay, if no other questions, Attorney, Mr. Dillon.
No, thank you. I was out of the office July 26th through July 30th, so I was gone most of last week. I was here for the Saturday of Film History Days, and I brought my 80-year-old mother and my 90-year-old stepdad with me. And so I wanted to pass on to the council that they asked me to pass on to you, that they really enjoyed their visit here and that they had a good time. Mom bought a lot of books. But anyway, I returned to the office on Monday. Obviously, we step away from municipal law practice for a week. We usually come back to a little bit of a hornet's nest, and that's been the case. That's the way I've expected it would be. I've been playing catch up since I got on Monday, so I had a busy week so far. That's not important.
Any questions?
The strategy adventure doesn't kick off till the 10th, does it?
Possibly.
That's not right?
It's possible that it will be continued. I don't know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Planning Board, Mr. Hand.
No meeting, no report.
Thank you. Zoning Commission.
Is there a meeting tomorrow?
No. No, I didn't get any information back from Jeremy Fadis. But once we get that information, our meeting will review that information. I just thought we didn't need to have a meeting, just have a meeting.
For the CIP.
Yeah, for the CIP information.
Mr. Schwann, it's your turn to decide.
Awesome, thanks. On behalf of the zoning commission, we had meetings, but we had no minutes from those meetings. That concludes my report.
I bet you wish you had. Director of Operations, Mr. Lazabaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All is well in the city. A couple of real quick things, since my time's running. Paving tomorrow on North Pacific and Center to take care of that intersection. Also the one on into Thompson, or at the beginning of Thompson, we'll look at it. And then also the corner on North Pacific and turning into Kentucky. Hope we get all those done by noon tomorrow. So then we can get those streets open back up. Water projects up and going is Hotel to the end of Orr Street, working on that. And Rejuvenator, we will be receiving a brand new Rejuvenator within the next 2 weeks. They are not able to replicate the problem they have in the one they delivered. They have decided to give us a brand new one. So with that, we happy to answer any questions.
That's strange, we didn't have a problem replicating it here.
They're not able to do it there, so I was very pleased that they were going to give us a new machine.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is,
This is high elevation, Mr. Mayor. Trips them all the time.
How is it going? How is the water project going? Are there any,
Well, we're
any
finding out.
surprises?
Well, they're finding out that it's a good thing we're doing the work, because a lot of the valves, we can't turn the water off anyway. So, that's why you see water running down the streets today, is they had to put new valves on. What they're doing is down, if you go down Idaho, and now you're on the Orr, a little bit this way, not very far, a few feet, that way down Orr towards the railroad. That's where they went down, dug down, cut the water line there. That's when they found out that it didn't shut everything off, so they had to do that new valve put on live. Ice, water spraying everywhere. So then they dug down to the other side, which is on this Washington Street, and Orr, and they tied into the water line there. and they put a new valve. And that one we couldn't get the water off. So it was spraying pretty good. So they did that live. So they got both on and they're both off now. Now they're digging around. So in a day or two, they should be done with the work. And then they'll, I think the plan is they're gonna go down Idaho until somewhere around Reeder. Maybe they wanna go further to like the White area. But they're not gonna go down any further and get involved because it'll probably be right around Labor Day and they don't wanna be there in that time. So,
So they're just gonna have the streets gravel, I'm assuming down to
you know, he's gonna try, whenever they can get a few blocks, they'll bring some asphalt down and pave them. So they're gonna be keeping up with the pavement too, is what he told me. They're not gonna wait until it's all done. to pave everything.
cement to dig up between Reeder and,
Well, that might be a practice for them, because I think there is concrete. I think it goes to Reeder. I know it goes to the post office. So between Seabury and Reeder, I still think it might be concrete. We're not, it stops somewhere in there. I don't think Reeder itself has concrete, but I think some of that block has got some. So that will be a practice to them on what they'll expect next year, next spring with Idaho Street, the rest of it.
What's that mainline look like down there? Other than old tire?
The line is okay. I mean, it's, because you're not in any water. It's only when you put the iron in water that you really start with paralysis. Yeah, and it starts eating away on it. But all the valves are.
Was this kind of part of the project and something that was expected, that you would probably have to be switching the valves?
Oh, yeah. That's why they had all the sizes, the valves, all that. It was just, they didn't expect, they thought the other valves around there would turn the water off enough that they could hook in. And they really want the water off to let it dry so they can put the dirt back in. Yeah, don't want to put it in a big muddy mess.
so I'm assuming next year then we should have another valve replacement project to replace the valves they couldn't turn off this year.
Well, that'd be up to the council. There is ARPA money out there that's guaranteed that they will pay you back if you use it for water or sewer projects. And the cities, they get up to 25 million projects. But how much more is left, I don't know. That goes out until 2024, I think, too, or even further.
That ought to be something I think we ought to look into, if the valves are broke, we're gonna have to change it, if we get ours, but we need to change it, I think we ought to look into it.
I'm not sure if you really need to change the lines themselves with the valves. So maybe a valve replacement might not be a bad idea to look into. Now, I'm not gonna be around for that. This is enough.
Well, I want to tell you that I live in that neighborhood, and the neighbors were very grateful today that you were able to get those valves switched out and turned off and the water drained away. I think the Johnsons were a little scared there for a minute, but in 1 hour, it all drained away. They were at the corner of Washington and Orr.
Good.
We did have flash flood warning jobs.
Have I known, John?
From the ground.
Any other stuff, Mr. Laserbaker?
No, other than the fact, my report was only about 2 minutes,
I know.
so I just want that to go.
That's an insight that I said, hey, the meetings would have been shorter if he didn't talk. Obviously, it wasn't him today.
I just want that clarification.
Are we done? Yeah, okay. Police Department, Mr. Guyverson, or Chief Guyverson.
After Todd said his was only 2 minutes, I'm gonna say that I don't have much to say. Any questions?
That'll be the first.
Everybody's in shock. I really don't have much, we're just planning. We had a squad meeting today. Ian came back, he was at the academy getting certified to be our firearms instructor, which is really good. We won't have to rely on other departments to get us certified, so that'll help us out quite a bit. Same with Eric, he's our toxilizer guy, he's got that all taken care of, which has been helpful. And Kylie got back from her deployment, only to be deployed again for the fires. And we're expecting
on the radio.
Yeah, I'll be expecting her back on the 23rd. I don't think she was overly happy about it, but as neat, neither was I, but it is what it is. So I think it was in our backyard, we want the National Guard there too. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next one, Fire Department, Assistant Chief Huckey.
BJ's getting out of it again this time. We had our regular meeting last night and we discussed, we had about 20 calls in July. Wildland calls, obviously, out in the district. We did have some small fire calls here in town. Several motor vehicle accidents in the surrounding area. That's kind of up for this time of year, but there's a lot of people out there traveling around. We've also had several gas calls, which is very unusual for this time of year. Just weird things that are happening. We've had one of our tenders on the Alder Creek fire for almost a month now. We've had at least 6 operators operating that tender. We get paid, the department gets paid $106, I think, an hour for the operation of that tender, and they've been operating on an average about 13 hours a day. So that machine that we built several years ago is helping us out a lot. We're going to use that money for some good things in the future.
Good. Any questions for the Assistant Chief? Okay, thank you. City Court, she had a child. Is it a girl?
Girl. Mabel.
Abel?
Mabel.
Mabel.
Mabel and Marie. That's what I've been told.
M-A-B-L-E.
M-A-B-L-E-L.
So that's where she is. Next item, treasurer, Mrs. Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packets is the cash summary report for June 2021, the bank and reconciliation reports for June 2021, and also the quarterly reports for Stockton Bank and the Bank of Commerce.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
We moved by Russ, seconded by Bill. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Questions being called for to approve the cash summary report for June 2021, the cash bank reconciliation report for June 2021, the collateral report for the Stockman Bank and the Bank of Commerce. Probably for the same June 2020.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that unanimous. Anything else or any questions for her? Okay, thank you. Tree board? Anything good? Okay. I think you need to pass. Reports of standing committees of the City Council Judiciary. Mr. Knight.
No meeting, no report.
Finance Committee, Mr. Hand.
Before you in the packet are our minutes from July 20th, ask for your acceptance.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan. Okay.
For all of them.
Yeah, let's do all of them, I'm sorry. For July 20th, July 22nd, July 29th, please.
Second all.
Okay, so Don made the motion for the three and Russ seconded. Is that out? Okay. Any discussion to approve those three sets of minutes?
Call for the question.
Questions been called for to approve the July 2021, the July 22, 2021, the July 29, 2021 committee meetings of the Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
We have the following line items to approve the line item budget report, the fund summary report, the claims by vendor, and the budget for actual report, all for July 2021. I ask for your acceptance.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Now, just for information that's in there, we also have attached to it the, on the third or fourth page.
Yes.
This is the thing from Dow. It's not a payment to Dow. Mungus is the company doing the work. They have asked for a reimbursement from them or from the city. And so now we start the process. I just filled out the sheet, sent it on. I believe it got sent on. We'll verify tomorrow again. So we have to do it, and this council finance committee with this vote will agree to this payment. This is pretty much parts, 700 and some thousand is parts. And there is no labor in this, okay? So now, then we'll go to DEQ, and then it'll go to DNRC, then it'll go to SRF, State Revolving Fund, and then if everybody's agreed to that, then they cut the check, puts it in our bank account, and then we write the check. That fund system. And then at this one, since this is the first draw, this is why it's all being set up and why this is kind of important to do it this way right now is some more papers have to be signed. Agree with the state revolving fund loan. And this is how they do it. The first draw is when you sign all the papers. So that's what was pushing this to get that set up.
So what is the $7,000 to the Department of Revenue for?
Whenever you do these big contracts, they set aside some money, and I think they get it back when it's all done.
It's part of your performance bond.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is all their money, but they're not going to get $7,000.
Until it's all done and been signed off saying everything's working like we thought it should. And then they got to put a request in with the state with our signature saying it was done right. I think it's our signature, maybe it's just the engineers.
Call for the question then?
Okay, just had to tell everybody when you're voting, when you're actually voting that too. And the question was called for to approve the line item budget report for July 2021, the fund summary for claims for July 2021, the claims by vendor report for July 2021, the budget versus actual report for July 2021, and the first reimbursement Dow, well, it's really Mungus invoice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. I take that as unanimous.
That completes my report.
Thank you. Fire and order, Mr. Schaefer.
No meeting, no report.
Health and welfare, Mr. McGinley.
No meeting, no report.
Cemetery, Mr. Hand.
No meeting, no report. I'm going to ask Diane to take over cemetery for me, however.
Okay, you want to have the council vote, you want to do it next week, or do it as a ministerial?
Ministerial probably just fine. Unless somebody has an objection.
Let's just say, anybody have objection? Okay, it's working.
Was that an objection or?
We usually do this when you're gone.
Okay, moving on. City Hall Committee, Mr. Graham.
Oh, before you'll find our minutes of the July 29, 2021 meeting. I ask for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Bill, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
I wondered about number 5. And I remember reading this report, I'm going to say that it was in the first meeting of June or the last meeting in May. There were some estimates that were part of this committee's report. And it seemed to me that the estimates, 2 of them were from local outfits and 1 was from an out-of-town outfit. And it looks to me, I just wondered, it looks to me like you're going to give this project, give the roofing project to the out-of-town business.
When we went through them, the other one was like almost 300,000 compared to the 121. And the Armstead one was 55 or whatever, something like that, half of it. I know Sissy, I like her a lot. I don't think she actually understood the bid, and it was going to be way under, and she would have got in over her head. And it ended up costing her money. That's why we approved, we went with this one.
Well, and the other thing was too, is the warranty. Warranty, if we go with 5-star and we continue the maintenance program, which costs us $200 a year to do, the warranty is for 5 years. The others didn't have a warranty.
We've actually dealt with Roxbury before they did
And there's no insurance kickback on any of this?
Well, that's what it
We're waiting to
That's the
find
reason
out.
we did what we did. We want to send this to the insurance because it should be an insurance adjusted deal, but we can't get the insurance to act on it. So we're going to send this bill to them and say, give us a check.
So I'm gonna make the call. Tell them, you gotta get down here now and do
But
it.
if we haven't got a bid or anything to give the insurance company, we're just,
Right.
and so that's the reason we went with what we did. So they have something to look at and he said the guy that runs this says he'll help you with the insurance company too. So
But
with
this-
adjusters and stuff, so hopefully.
So he'll work more or less directly with the adjuster.
This was tabled until we find out from the adjuster what's gonna happen. And then it'll be back on the committee, either next meeting or before, especially
Whenever we find out.
whenever we find that information out.
Call for the question.
First has been called for to approve the July 29, 2021 meeting minutes of the City Hall Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
As you see, we had, not on here, I guess we never did know. Number 2, we discussed the rental use of a Dillon martial arts. I guess, I don't know if we needed council approval for that, or this was just a general rental agreement, so I don't know. Does council approve that, or
Is that a subcontract?
what's that?
Because we approve all cleaning contracts and other contracts that come forth on behalf of City Hall. So I'm sure that would be
Okay.
no different, just as it is with the parks, with all their contracts that they have to approve and make recommendations to.
Yeah, I just.
So I believe that would be as
Can
well,
we,
because it's a
uh,
liability issue and verification of their own insurance as such.
Well, the only reason I was thinking it wasn't, not saying I don't want it coming, but this is using thus information set up in ordinance. Now, the other ones, the contracts are not in ordinance. That's a contract with the council with some other party. But this is how do we lease our buildings or our parks or that stuff that we're following. That's where they came up with the price, was from the park rental that we're doing. So we don't come to the council for every time somebody wants to lease the park out. And that's what that bought. But if we're wrong, we can put it on the agenda, next agenda for council approval. There was no insult meant on it.
This is just an agreement as part of the building, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it really isn't a contract per se, it's just our standard.
No,
Usage.
right, it's a standard agreement, they come out of the ordinance.
Yeah, so I don't think we have to prove it really, unless City Hall did. Unless Mr. Dolan has a different opinion.
Is it a standard form
Yeah.
that's used with
And they've approved, they've shown to Stacy the insurance papers they have,
Yeah.
which is a requirement for other leases.
Right. No, then I'd say it follows the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, will this be an addition to the major fee schedule that we have that lays out all the fees in the city?
I can add that. I thought we had some, I can't remember, but I thought we had some for the usage. I know we had all the park usages and stuff on there.
We do have all the park ones.
But I think we had this too, but I might not be right, but I thought we did. I'll have to look. If not, it'll be added to the next.
We went off what the parks fee was for power,
Right.
is what we went there. There was the same thing in the
But if we add it to that fee schedule, then from now on, we'll know
Right.
what it is to rent that room.
Right. The next month or so, I'm gonna give you guys the resolution again. And we'll make sure we add to it.
The major fee schedule.
And they agreed to try to keep it down and be down by 7 o'clock most nights, so.
Yeah, they're supposed to be done up there by 7, so we won't hear all the fun rattle.
So the only one they'll irritate.
We won't have all the Zumba music.
Well, that's afterwards.
Oh, afterwards, okay.
And then the next thing we discussed recommending the selling the 2007 work order bus. And what we did on there, and I guess we missed not all of our package got put in here, but I couldn't get an appraisal. I took it out to our local sugar garage thinking I'd get an appraisal. They couldn't give me one. All they could do was just their online blue book value. And so what I did, I went online and I found some buses the same year. Well, one the same year and one was a year older. And what dealers were asking for them was $27,000 and $24,000 respectively. And so I thought that realistically we ought to be able to try to get at least half of that out of the bus, which is about $15,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan, or Don. Discussion?
On the other thing we looked at too is we could part it out, the motor and the transmission would hold that, almost that amount of money anyways. And it's got fairly new tires on it and low mileage. Doesn't have very much mileage. We just felt that the $5,000 that was offered for it was way low. So we decided to put it up around 15, maybe we can move it. And then we're gonna put it on.
We're gonna put it on a really advertising. I don't think we've ever really tried to sell it, honestly. You know, we advertised it as part of the auction sale last year, and that's about it. Offered it to a few cities, but I'm sure if we advertise it.
And that kind of a nationwide advertisement, like they do with the fire trucks and stuff.
Maybe we could park it in the parking lot across the street. Put it up on blocks, you know.
Park it down by your house.
Parking it out. I would venture to
We'll move it every 4.5 days.
No, 7 days.
And we can hook up an old vehicle, just sort of tow it around the block.
Right?
Call for the question.
Now, where would you guys want, where do you recommend to go on? Where do you think the best shot is? It's outside of my expertise.
I thought a couple of years ago we put it on the state website, because this actually came before Health and Welfare 3 years ago, the bus, and I thought we put it out there on a couple of the state websites. I thought,
I think we did, I didn't check into it.
if I recall right.
See, I thought we ought to run an ad in the paper, like the Dillon Tribune. They got a deal where you place an ad for sale and it goes out to 30 bucks on the newspapers in the state. I thought we ought to advertise it because I would look at something like that and think the general public, if somebody wanted to make a motorhome out of it, make a great motorhome, or if somebody wanted it for like another rest home or retirement center or something like that, somebody might see that don't read. You know, the state websites are okay for your state agency, but most people don't look at state things for that. And I think really, private sales, where we're gonna have you guys selling this, I don't think the state or another, you know, the problem with most cities and towns, they can buy buses like this brand new and get a kickback someplace. And, anyway, I just thought it'd be worth a try to get more than $5,000.
I suggest eBay.
And the marketplace.
You can put a reserve real easily on eBay. And I've seen other state entities sell surplus property on eBay as well.
Want me to try eBay?
You can set the terms and conditions of the auction as well.
Okay. And we'll call for a question. I interrupted that.
Okay.
The question we call for to approve asking for closed bids with a $15,000 minimum for the 2007 city bus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
Okay, and if you see, Mr. Johnson come back over and talk to us about the Frontier Convention Center anywhere across the street. Frontier Conference Center, Convention Center. And so he just come back and said he was still interested in selling this, and he actually brought us, he said there's actually some grants available. And so we asked the mayor to look into some of these grants. He said there's actually a federal grant that would pay up to $5 million for a venue such as that for a small town that don't have one. So we're gonna have the mayor look into that, and we will continue pursuing that. I guess that kind of concludes our report. Oh, Dillon History Days. We, as you see, we made a little bit of money off it. Our car smash actually was pretty good, and we actually had a couple of the baseball players come over and commented they were really happy with us having that, and thanked us for our hospitality. They were here for the tournament, and between games, they come downtown and enjoyed everything. I think it was a pretty well good turnout on Main Street. I didn't get to go over and look because I was over here. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or otherwise that will conclude my commitments.
Thank you. Move on. Street and Alley Committee, Mr. Nye.
Yeah, we did have a Streets and Alley meeting Monday, no minutes yet. That'll be the end of my report.
Thank you. Water and Sewer Committee, Mr. Hand.
No meeting, nor at work.
Thank you. Okay, public comment on items of significant public interest not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the city.
Mr. Mayor, I think I'm the only one here.
Bill, but I'm not sure.
No comment tonight.
George Warner, and I believe it's been about 6 weeks since I last spoke to you, and at that time my concern was going to be government abuse, and I expressed my concerns at that time. It's been fairly quiet over the past 6 weeks, but my concerns are still apparent, and what I'm concerned about is that your authority be undercut both as a body and as a mayor. And on a good note, we had a health board meeting where Russ, the mayor, and I appeared, and it was a good, fruitful meeting. A lot of good discussion. Everybody seemed to be working together at that meeting, and I think a lot of concerns were alleviated. One of the issues, my appeal, I acknowledge that it's still on the gamut, and I made the overture that I would meet with the chairman, who is Tom Rice, and their legal counsel, because I believe all the legal arguments could be stipulated to. All of my arguments have been sustained by current state law, and that we only have to talk about the fiscal stuff. And I was hoping that would occur previous to the county approving a budget, but that has not yet happened. So I hope they keep those concerns in mind when they pass their budget. on the negative side of things, and some of my concerns have been validated over these past couple of days, both at the federal level and other counties. I have yet to see it come here. My concern is the forest fire is burning, and I'm going to set some backfires, and hopefully it doesn't get to Dillon. The first thing that I'd like to address, and I'm going to address this to the city attorney because I think he has the best background for this. I have never seen an executive body do what they did yesterday at the federal level in regards to the CDC and the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court came out with that eviction moratorium ruling, and within what, 10 days? The CDC, an advisory board of the federal government, says that our local people, our local landlords, can't evict people for 2 months. Can you imagine that? It's a crime. How do you do that? But that seems to be the tendency right now. Thus my forest fires. And I'm going to pick primarily on our educational system, both at the college level and K through 12. We have new laws which stipulate masking or non-masking. These people believe that they're not in the state of Montana or unaffected by it, and they're their own separate governments. The Board of Regents has taken the state of Montana to court on the gun issue. I believe they believe that the masking is the same premise. They can do whatever they want to. I expressed that with the Commissioner of Higher Education when I went to a previous health board meeting and I talked to him. He's a personal friend of mine. And I said, Clay, I noticed you don't have any executive orders for the past 3 years. I said, how are you getting away with the masking? And he says, well, you know, we probably should do that. I said, yeah, how can anyone review your codifications, whether you have any or not, your board rulings, and know what your policies are? The only document they had was the handbook that goes to the students. Now, could you guys run your business that way? If I came in here and asked for the code, you just say, oh, we all agreed on this and this is how we do things? Can't do that. And another question to the city attorney. Have you seen any information about the lawsuit between the Board of Regents and the state of Montana?
No.
I haven't either. And all of that has no attorney-client privilege because it's two government agencies. It's who we put in power to do things for us, and they're fighting amongst themselves. And we have interest in that. Our people have interest in that. We actually, as a body, should be opining and saying, look, we want to support this situation, and we want to know what your arguments are. I'd like to see your attorney's notes, your phone calls. Who are you talking to? Because certainly, they're not talking to me. Same thing with the masking. Missoula, yesterday, had a Missoula County school board meeting. They announced this afternoon through their superintendent that they're not going to have a public meeting anymore. They're going to go Zoom because too many people were interested. They had 60 people there that wanted to speak, and we can't have that again. Can you imagine that? That is a violation of the Constitution, state law, everybody's rights to participate, to observe. They don't get it. they're gonna get a call on that. It personally affects me. I've got a granddaughter there, and I'm gonna deal with it, even if I have to make the arrest. And I'm going to talk to the Attorney General's office, because that is the county attorney that didn't respond to me last year. That's in my appeal before this county. So what I'm concerned about is our kids are having their rights taken away from them. And we're not doing enough to make sure that they have those rights. Now, constitutionally, Montana is quite unique. The constitutional rights of non-adults are everything that adults have, except those laws that inhibit those rights for their own protection. We don't have a law that says that they have to mask up. We have a specific law that says they don't have to. It's their right. It's their parents' right. And yet we've got school districts, and I'm not saying we have one here. That's yet to be seen. That's why I'm setting backfires. And if I can go to their meeting, I will be attending it. The kids and the teachers can all stay there through the event. Everybody can do their job. We can minimize the risk. That's what we would do in a real pandemic. But this isn't a real pandemic. This is a political pandemic. And we can see the costs. They're manifesting themselves tremendously in costs. There are certain people that have had no financial burdens by this. And I want to avert the kids having their rights stepped on. That's all I have tonight, unless someone has questions regarding any part of my testimony. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Also, let me step in before anybody. Diane has told me that she will be out of state. So as a ministerial, this is in October 12th to the 22nd. So to order the ministerial action, approve her to be able to leave the state again.
Second.
Been moved by Raymond, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? She didn't say if she's gonna go have fun. Okay.
Stay out of trouble.
Call for the question. Question to call for to say it's okay for Diane to leave the state on October 12th to the 22nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. That's
We
unanimous.
do expect goodies when you come back.
Hey, she
I
didn't
brought her
dress
tonight.
No, that was not right. That was not right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just one, since Mr. Warner was here, it reminded me through his great just research and looking at things. He reminded us of that sale of the UMW property on Center Street. And you had written a letter to the Commissioner of Higher Ed. Have we ever heard back from them, or where is that sale or proposed sale?
I have not heard back from the Board of Regents, but I have heard back from the university. And the one they were talking about is the high school, even though they said before it wasn't. So the high school was working something through. Not sure what, I was still nervous. And it's harder to determine when the high school, I'm going to try to go to their next meeting. I don't know if it's next Monday or
It's Monday night.
this Monday night coming up.
So the
I'll probably
proposed
go
sale
with
is
the
to
Monday.
the high school?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I
And
gotta
the
go to a
$500,000
reminder
sale
tonight.
is out of the way.
I don't know, we got to talk to the high school. I hope they're not thinking of trying to use COVID money to pay for that, so. But if they keep it down pretty low, I'm not, or I would recommend that we don't step in and try to stop any of that. Because that would be a good use for the high school, but not for 1,300,000.
Mr. Mayor. Mary Jo, I was trying to keep it short, so that's why I didn't even bring it up, but thank you. I'm glad the mayor's going to a meeting. I hope he finds out what he wants to, but I'll assure you that if he doesn't find out what he wants, I will issue a FOIA request on the college and the high school concerning the matter. Because that's the same thing that I was talking about with the Board of Regents. You've got two agencies trying to act in secrecy. They can't do that. They represent you and I. We need to know what they're thinking and what they're planning, so we can all be involved. And then hopefully it's a good issue. Our letters went out and I think they were well received. So,
Yes.
thank you.
I guess I got one comment on this whole thing. I find it kind of interesting. There's two state agencies, the school board of the Beaver Lake County High School, whatever they call themselves, and the college that got together, made up their mind they're going to buy and sell something for $1.4 million, but yet we've never seen the school board ever have a meeting on it, and the school board said we don't know anything about it, but yet they've got together enough that they're going to spend that much money without a meeting. I suggest there's already been some secret meetings going on, and quite frankly, I think that somebody ought to investigate that, the Attorney General office or the county attorney's office, because I don't know how two government agencies can get together and agree to spend $1.4 million or $1.2 million, whatever the money is, without ever having a meeting. But yet, they've had a meeting of mind to do it. So that tells me somewhere along the way there's been quite a meeting, and that is definitely a crime. That should be some kind of investigation on how you can have a meeting. I guarantee you, if the city board, the city of Dillon, the zoning commission, or anything else got together and figured out a way to spend the city's money, that much money without a meeting, I guarantee people would be mad. I don't know why people ain't upset about the high school and the college spending that much money. Whether it's corporate money or where they're getting the money, there was a secret meeting someplace, some backroom deal somehow that come to the conclusion they're gonna do it. I think that's where the investigation ought to land, where they buy, sell, whatever they do with that. There's been enough meeting of the minds to do it, that means there's a real meeting.
Well, they haven't really signed anything.
No, but they've agreed to do it.
They're discussing it.
There ain't no discussion, they've agreed to do it. They've already had,
What do we have that proves that they've agreed to it?
they've already done the buy-sell agreements. They've done,
Where have you seen that?
well, they haven't seen the buy-sell, but they've already established, they spent money doing a preliminary.
They did an appraisal.
All they did was appraisal. That doesn't mean they're gonna sell it or.
The guy at the college said the high school's the one that's gonna buy it. Now, why would he say that if he hasn't
He
talked to
didn't
the
say
high
they're
school?
gonna buy it, they're looking in at possibility of
He was looking into that
it.
possibility.
They haven't signed a buy, sell or anything.
Well, just because you
So I
haven't
think
signed
we're, to
anything.
be honest with you, I think we're pulling the panic button here pretty quick on the high school and the college.
But there is no reason for us to speculate. All of it should have been up.
Well, the Board of
That's
Regents
wrong.
already
Okay,
agreed
but-
to sell to them.
Again,
They
I guess I
already
go back.
agreed to sell it.
So why
Okay.
would the Board of Regents agree to sell to somebody who wasn't going to want to buy it?
Okay, I guess I go back to I'm old, I'm naive. Twin Hills called the college and said, hey, Chancellor, can we get together and meet and visit? Instead of coming to meetings like this and airing our laundry.
And actually.
Where's, I guess, the leadership?
I don't go very far with this, because I did. Okay, I know you're trying to defend the college, you're
No, I'm
trying
not.
to defend the high school.
I'm not trying to
But I
defend
actually
anybody.
did, and I was lied to by the chancellor, and I go, come on now. And I was lied to again by the chancellor, until I said, well, I'm gonna actually start putting this out in papers all over the state. And then the chancellor, within a few hours, called me back and said, yeah, it's the high school. I talked to them, and they said it's okay if you told about that we're trying to set up something. Okay, I'm okay with the high school, I said. So let's get the truth out on what was being taught and how it was, the whole thing went.
And again, I'll go back, okay. They have their viewpoint, we have ours. Instead of sitting here bitching about it.
We're not
Sorry,
sorry,
well-
just coming and telling the truth.
Okay, but let's get everybody all on the same page.
And that's why I said I'm going to go to the next meeting. And get everybody on the same page.
I gotta respond to that. The mayor and I actually testified before the Board of Regents, when they cut us off. They had an obligation to get a hold of us. We took the next step and we both wrote letters, both the mayor and I did. We hadn't been contacted except for the chancellor talking to the mayor. And you actually put more pressure on than you stated. It took the discussion of criminal action before he got the answer that he was looking for.
It wasn't criminal. I just said, I'm going to go and put it to the press, and we're going to let all this out. So it wasn't criminal. So don't say I was trying to arrest them.
The bottom line is, a FOIA could be presented at any time. I will not do that if it's going forward. But they've got an obligation, just as the county has, to realize that my appeal was legitimate. It's over a year old. This issue was, the action was taken the 3rd of January. Here we are in August. They need to come clean. And whether they have a public meeting, whether they come in and alleviate our concerns, the ball's in their court. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, no, I understand that, George, but we need the leadership from the college, leadership from the high school, leadership from the city need to step up and get together to find out exactly where everybody's coming to. Instead of somebody going to the meeting and threatening them with this and that. The three entities ought to get together, sit down, and come up with a plan so everything's out on the table. Instead of sitting in meetings like this and taking the shots at everybody
It
involved.
needs to be done here, Todd. That's the problem. Nobody else is doing it.
Mr.
And
Mayor,
it needs to be done
is it
publicly.
possible
Yeah,
to,
that's fine. Well, let's comment. Okay, there we go.
is it possible to invite the chancellor to our next meeting, just to give us a report on the proposed sale of the Center Street property?
Well, we could. I think he kind of thinks it's in the hands of the high school. And that's why I was going to go to the high school board meeting. Because it's really, at least from my talking with the chancellor, that's where it's at. They have to make a decision if they want to do it, if they want to put an offer in. That has to be done in a public meeting. That discussion, you can't do any of that behind the scenes. You can't spend public money behind the scenes. You got to do it in the open.
I'm
That's
sure,
spending
you
public
know,
money.
I guess I know those people that, at the university and at the high school, at the district level. I'm sure they'd be happy to come and let us know, give us a report on what's going on and what their future plans are. I'm sure they're very proud of those future plans.
And if anything, I will go to the meeting Monday and invite them to come.
Great, thank you.
And we'll see where it goes from there.
Then I move for adjournment.
Second.
Been moved by Dan, or Don, and seconded by Bill for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.